if I don't figure out the robotics, I'm gonna have a 1-to-1 scale BB8 lamp. So in this episode, we're gonna try to figure some stuff out. I got a $5 RC car. I'm gonna wire its remote to my Raspberry Pi, and I'm gonna control this RC car with nothing but a handful of code and a lot of solder. And I burned myself. Let's do it. With the exception of code, this is everything I'm going to be using for the project, I think. I had an old Arduino projects book. It talks about optocouplers. That's these two things right here. I'm going to use what this book teaches you and work with these optocouplers. They act as a button using only electricity. This, and this is my soldering kit. Here's just a couple generic tools. Batteries to fuel the RC car, and first to fuel this or to energize this before I hook it up to this breadboard. And this will be in a few different steps, but we're gonna just make sure that we can power this remote control before I try to install these optocouplers. Okay, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 buttons on this thing. Let's see what they all do. Okay, that's forward and backwards. These seemingly do nothing. Okay, so forward and backwards, just for forward and backwards, left and right makes one wheel spin forward and one wheel spin backwards, or vice versa. So for this project, I'm probably only going to code the left and right. That way my car doesn't run away from me, because I'm going to be controlling it all with a small piece of code. It'll be easier just to tell it to spin clockwise and counterclockwise. So here's the circuit board. It has 2 buttons to go forward, backwards, left, and right. And those buttons in the middle don't touch, so they don't touch anything. They're for show. There's a G and a V here. I'm gonna go ahead and assume those stand for ground and voltage. And if I flip the back, the antenna was plugged up here, and that, let's see, voltage. So that's our voltage. Bam, and that's our ground. So all I need to do is desolder these holes, install some pins, and we can hook this up to the Raspberry Pi. These 2 holes are now holes instead of filled in. So now let me install these pins. Okay, here's my 2 installed pins. My fillets are garbage, but whatever. And there they are. That one's a little crooked. It'll do. Alright, let's set up the Raspberry Pi. We're all wired up. I've got power to power, ground to ground. I have a jumper from here to here. That jumper connects to the yellow goes to voltage. Then this white cable completes the ground over here, the green goes to ground over here. So if I give power to my Raspberry Pi, using zero code, the RC car should work. Alright, ready? It works. So now, I need to replace these two buttons with these two optocouplers. With the help of this book, I should be able to write a code that says when this pin turns on this optocoupler, this car will spin. See if it works. My hat got in the way of all the recording of me setting up the wiring, so I drew up this diagram for you guys. It's actually going to help me in the long run in case I have to take this all apart, and it'll be a good reference for you if you ever use something like this. Let's go ahead and look at the code. I found a tutorial on the Pi Hut that turns an LED on and off using the GPIO pins. I basically copied that code and applied it to turning on the pins for the remote control. Taking a look at the code, I import the library, I import the time library, I set up the pins naming convention, I tell it to give me warnings if they're warnings. The left button is 23, the right button is 24. Once it does all that, it's going to print on the screen, spin counterclockwise. It's going to turn 23 on for 2 seconds, then turn it off, then wait for 2 seconds, then say spin clockwise, turn the right button on for 2 seconds, and then turn off. All I have to do is type in sudo, which I don't really know what that means, but I know it means to start a thing, that it's going to be based in Python, and there's my Python script. So all I do is I hit enter, I see spin counterclockwise, spin clockwise, and that's my whole script. So if I did it right, those radio frequencies should be going through the air and spin this car. Let me set up a camera. Car, controller, Raspberry Pi. There's me wireless into it. All I have to hit is enter and run the script. Oh yeah. So it worked. I got this car to move using code and a bunch of other stuff, but I'm not pushing buttons, which is good because then I can have virtual buttons or however this works. You might have noticed that it's an orange car instead of a gray car from the beginning. I set up pins on both types of frequency cars, then forgot, then tried to figure out why the gray car wasn't driving, and I realized I rigged up the orange car. So there it is. All the STLs you saw today are going to be up on Thingiverse. All the code's up on GitHub. I'm getting there.